Welcome to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show presented by Stop & Shop. I'm Bob Papa. On Thursday, the Giants play Thanksgiving Day in Dallas against the Cowboys. We've got a great show lined up for you. Carl Banks goes to the coach's tape. We'll look back at the Giants' rivalry with the Cowboys in Dallas and a whole lot more. But it's with great pleasure I welcome in my co-host and the head coach of the New York Giants, Carl Banks, and Coach Brian Daboll. And Coach, short week for you. Got to put the game against the Lions to bed. How much can you really go back and study it?
Yeah, we did that. We did that right after the game as a coaching staff, and the coordinators watched it. I watched it. We got together, over FaceTime and phone conversations that night and fix the things we think we need to fix, and then really get right on into Dallas.
Coach, when you look at the Dallas team and what you have to erase, we talk about short memories all the time, but it's not the physical now. It's making sure that the guys are mentally prepared and focused, because the mental should click when the game starts, because everybody's dealing with it on a short week.
Yeah, Thursdays you always have to have a good schedule set in place for them. Make sure that they're mentally right, but more importantly, they got to make sure they're physically right with their massages, their rest, their hydration, and that'll be important for us this week. And then they got to meet and study groups and spend a little extra time on some of the tape. Unfortunately, this is a team we've played in our division, but a lot that goes into it, getting ready to play on a Thursday game.
Coach, you mentioned playing on Thursday. It's Thanksgiving. It's a little bit different than your boilerplate Thursday night game. What about the concept and the thought of playing on Thanksgiving, which is basically a national holiday here in the States?
Yeah, it's a privilege. All eyes are on you. I remember as a young kid sitting down and eating some turkey dinner and watching football and hearing John Madden's voice. And it's a great tradition. We're honored to be part of it, and we'll do our best to represent.
Coach, the Dallas Cowboys, obviously they're coming off a big win against the Minnesota Vikings. They have that 1-2 punch, Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, and it really seems to be working well together, where it's nobody's griping about sort of the snaps that they're getting.
Yeah, and they're winning, so usually that goes hand in hand. Both of them very talented players, really can do anything with them in the run game and the pass game. Pollard's explosive, so is Zeke. He can get downhill on you. They can break tackles. They can take it the distance. Two of the better backs in the league.
And when you play a team that's as talented as the Dallas Cowboys, both sides of the ball, discipline is really important, right? Being where you're supposed to be, not to turn what could be a decent play into a big play. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Taking care of all the little things, but this is one of the more talented groups that we face, really at every position. They're very good on offense, great in the kicking game, and exceptional on defense. It would be a very tough challenge.
Coach, the last time you played the Cowboys, Cooper Rush was the starting quarterback. Now you get Dak Prescott, but you know what he brings to the table. What makes Dak such a strong player? Really everything. He's good in the pocket. He's accurate. He's got good tempo in and out of the huddle, or when they go no huddle. Makes good football decisions. Can use his legs if he needs to, and he's a winner. Coach, on the other side of the ball, Carl mentioned about the Cowboys defensively, and obviously with Lawrence and Parsons up front, and then all the other guys that they have, because they do it in waves. Is it really exotic what they do, or is they kind of they can just beat you man on man? Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think Coach Quinn does a really good job with this scheme, particularly into the passing situations, but very talented individual matchups. They're hard to block, and they got good cover players that take advantage on the back end too. So it all works hand in hand. Extremely talented defense.
Coach, when you talk about the players and as you prepare their scheme and you talk about the individual talents, is it important to understand from your perspective, offensive line, to understand each individual player and what they do well before you even get into the scheme? Absolutely. Everything starts with matchups, and you never know exactly where they're going to put him, particularly 11. He's kind of all over the place. A dynamic player, and Lawrence gave us a lot of issues the first game, and inside they're just start with the matchups, and then we gotta do a good job too with our technique, our fundamentals, and making sure we're sound. And I know that Diggs pretty well from way back in the day. Fun guy to go against, but a dangerous guy to go against. Absolutely. I mean, you see what he did against Minnesota. They matched him up and held a really good receiver to 3 catches, I think 33 yards. That's not fun. He's pretty instinctive player. He's got length. He's got speed. He's a heck of a corner.
Coach, just as you get ready to play this game against the Cowboys, you've got 4 division games coming up in a row. So the message to your team is what? It's right there in front of you. It's all in front of you. Whatever happened last Sunday really doesn't factor in right now.
Yeah, it's really all about Dallas. We got a few days here to make sure we're prepared and go in there as fresh as we can be to play a good game on Thursday on Thanksgiving.
All right, Coach, we look forward to spending Thanksgiving with you in Arlington, Texas.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
That's New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll. When we come back, head-to-head and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. Giants and Cowboys, Thanksgiving in Arlington, Texas. Now it's time for this week's edition of Head to Head. Here's Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
So let's take a look at the head-to-head matchups for the Thanksgiving game between the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Sean, up first, we go with Giant safety Julian Love against Dalton Schultz, the tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Love had a career-high 14 tackles against Dallas in week number 3. Schultz did not play in that game. He had a knee injury.
Julian Love knows he's got additional responsibility this week against the Cowboys. Obviously, the green dot, he's been handling that really well since Xavier McKinney's been out. But the Giants' leading tackler is going to have to find a way to handle this guy. And Dalton Schultz, you mentioned that he didn't play in the Week 3 matchup earlier this season. In his 2 games last season against the Giants, he had 14 catches. So no doubt about it, Dak Prescott loves going to Dalton Schultz. He kind of looks for him as his security blanket. He's almost his Jason Witten to Tony Romo now in this offense. But one of the things I think Dalton Schultz does a great job of is he does a great job after the catch. He does a great job creating separation with the routes. He's not going to run by anybody. He's not going to be one of those deep threat guys, but he does a great job attacking that middle of the field, which is why I think this could be a great matchup in the Giants' favor. Now, a lot of teams end up with a linebacker on to Dalton Schultz, and I think that's a mismatch in their favor. But with Julian Love, with his athleticism, his speed, his recoverability, I think this is a benefit for the Giants, and I think this is a mismatch in the Giants' favor.
Schultz right now is second on the Cowboys with 29 receptions this season. Okay, the next matchup, Darius Slayton against Trevon Diggs, the interception machine. Well, Slayton has now had 5 consecutive starts for the Giants, and last weekend he had a season-high 10 targets. Diggs, number 2 in the NFL right now with 13 passes defensed. Slayton is going to have to be pretty crafty to beat him.
I mean, he's a good DB, so obviously got to be aware of him. He's got great ball skills down the field. But I just try to treat everybody the same. I know I got to play my game, play fast, play strong. So this is the way I approach it.
How important is it for the running game to get going, to allow your defense to maintain the balance that you have to have when going against a secondary like that?
I think it's always important. Football's a game of balance. You got to be able to run it, got to be able to throw it, and obviously it helps us as receivers. The better we run it, helps the play-action game. So, I have full faith that they'll get it going, and I'm looking forward to it.
Darius Slayton has had an unbelievable run the last 4 weeks. He's continued to be Daniel Jones' go-to guy, and he's going to need him now more than ever on Thanksgiving evening. And for Darius Slayton, look, this is a great challenge, and I'm sure he's looking forward to the challenge of going up against that guy. When you look at the receivers Trevon Diggs has gone against, he just held Justin Jefferson last week to 2 catches for 19 yards. He's gone against Terry McLaurin. He's gone against A.J. Brown. He's gone against some of the best, Jamar Chase, before he got hurt. So this is a great opportunity for Darius Slayton to make a name for himself in the NFL going against the best. Now, you mentioned the fact that he's got the interceptions. He's second in the NFL in pass breakups. Only Sauce Gardner with the Jets has more. I think when you look at that, one of the things that Daniel Jones and Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll are looking at is, yes, he loves interceptions. He loves going after the ball. We call him a ball hawk. But that also makes him susceptible to the double move. And one of the things that Trevon Diggs loves doing, he loves jumping routes. He loves trying to make that big splashy play. And as much as you try to design your offense to look, we don't want to put the ball at risk. We don't want Daniel Jones to make any risky throws, Paul. I think this could be a good opportunity for Darius Slayton to bite on that aggressiveness and hit them with a double move at some point. For Darius, I know he's looking forward to the challenge. And, of course, Trevon Diggs is looking forward to pitching basically another shutout against a big-time receiver.
I think it's interesting that Diggs is allowing a 62% completion percentage this year, which is the worst of his 3-year career. A lot of teams have actually tried to hit him with shorter stuff to see if they can get him to bite before they go deep.
Yeah, and a lot of teams are basically just not even throwing at him. But to your point, yeah, they want to hit those short routes and get him, kind of biting in, and then hope to hit him for the deep ball. The thing that Darius Slayton, when you look at his numbers, okay, look, he doesn't have, the 500-yard receiving games, but he averages 17.2 yards per catch. There's only one receiver in the NFL, maybe two, that has more per catch than Darius Slayton. So 17.2 yards per catch, that's pretty impressive, and he's clearly been the big playmaker for the Giants offense.
Well, Diggs has been a big play machine against the Giants. In fact, in each of his past 3 games against Big Blue, he has had an interception. That'll do it for head-to-head this week. Now let's go back to Bob.
Carl, Darius Slayton has proven to be a factor for the Giants. Not only is he getting, 85 yards a game receiving, he's drawing penalties, and now with Wan'Dale Robinson unfortunately out for the season, a bigger burden on Darius Slayton.
Well, he is, and he's got he's growing in confidence every game. You can see that, and I think he'll be up for the challenge, and he's going to probably let his quarterback know, count on me.
And listen, Diggs sometimes takes some guesses, takes some chances. Slayton has proven to be an excellent route runner.
Well, he's a good route runner, but here's the one thing that even the best DBs respect: speed. He's got speed, and you got to respect it.
We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, over under with Madeline Burke here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. On Thanksgiving in Dallas. Time for this week's edition of Over Under with Madeline Burke, Amani Toomer, and Sean O'Hara.
It's game time for a little Week 12 over-under. As you're all sitting down for your Thanksgiving meal, the Giants will be facing the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day, a 4:30 kickoff. Sean, Amani, you know the rules. We're playing a little over-under. Over-under 2.5 servings of Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, give me the over all day long. That might be before the game even kicks off.
All right, let's get into it for real now. Sean, I'm going to start with you here. Over-under 250 total yards from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over on this one, and it's a tough, stingy Dallas defense. They love to make a lot of big plays. They're the number 1 scoring defense in the league right now, so I think this is a tough task, but I'm taking the over because I think Daniel Jones is going to be a force on the ground. I think a lot of the damage has to be done with his legs, Amani, because he's got to find a way to keep moving these chains.
I totally agree. It has to be over. For the Giants to win this game, he's going to have over 250, and he's going to have a good chunk of that on the run game.
I know. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley are going to be rivaling for that leading rusher. I'm going to agree with you there, too, taking the over strictly for that dual threat reason as well against this Cowboys team. All right, Amani, over under 125 yards from scrimmage from Saquon Barkley this week.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a game that is a big-time game, and he is one of the best players on this team. He's going to have to show up big in this game. These are the type of games he has to have a couple of spectacular runs, and he's going to also have to play huge, and that's going to go over 125 yards.
Yeah, I'm with you, too. I'm taking the over on this one. I feel like this is the bounce-back week, right? As a player, like, hey, all right, you have a dud of a game, or you can't wait to redeem yourself. Normally, you got to wait 7 days. Luckily for Saquon, just 3 days. So 125 total scrimmage yards. Look, I think he's going to be more impactful in the run game. I thought the Giants got off to a slow start. I think this offense starts a little bit faster, even on a short week, because it's a familiar opponent. But I also think we need some more threats from the other players and other positions in the passing attack.
Yeah.
I think Saquon as a receiver makes a lot of sense.
I agree, and I think as good as this Cowboys defense is, their weakness is that run defense. They're 26th in the league in the run game, and so I think Saquon's going to get it going, like you mentioned, that get-right game. We need to see that from him, and plus this team very much remembers what happened in Week 3 on Monday Night Football and have been looking forward to this rematch, so I think Saquon's going to have a big game. All right, over under, Sean, 1.5 sacks by this Giants team.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, personally, I want to go over here, but I'm going to say under. Dak Prescott's been one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league. I think when you look at how we're struggling to get pressure from the edge, I think that's not ideal for us. So I think the quarterback pressures, though, to me are even more important. Sacks are great, but pressures lead into turnover, so I'll take the under.
I'm going to go over, and I think this is a Thibodeau game. He's drafted high for the Giants, first-round pick. I think he's looking at himself thinking, I got to show up. And this is the game where all the lights are on. Yeah. I think it's a Thibodeau game. Over.
Everybody's talking about turkeys. He's saying, what about the duck?
I see what you did there. I respect that so much. I can't even follow that line. That's good. I'm going to go ahead, though, and agree. I would like to take the over there. I'm going to take the under, too. I think they'll get one. But to Sean's point, I think they're going to get the pressures there. The Giants, haven't really been finishing lately. This is a tough Cowboys O-line. Dak Prescott, as you mentioned, hasn't been sacked a lot. So I'm going to take the under. Let's get the pressure on him. All right. Finally, Amani, over under 45 points combined by the Giants and Cowboys.
I think I'm going to go over on this one. I think the Cowboys have a very high-power offense, and for the Giants to be competitive, which I think this game is going to be, they're going to have to match point for point. Definitely going to go over. No question about that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over on this as well. The Cowboys just put up 40 points on the Minnesota Vikings, so offensively they're in rhythm. I think for the Giants as well, you look at this game, this is so pivotal because obviously it's a primetime game, it's on a holiday, but this has such an impact on the wild card race and the playoff division and being against the Dallas Cowboys, who we already lost. You unload everything. You don't save anything for later on in the season. So all the trick plays, all the gadget plays, they need points. They cannot continue to settle for field goals. So I'll take the over, wishful thinking here, and it's also probably the same amount of pounds I'm going to gain on Thanksgiving Day.
45 pounds. That's impressive. Yeah. That is impressive right there. That takes some light work.
Put it all back on.
Listen, looking at these defenses, both these scoring defenses allow under 20 points per game, which makes me want to take the under, but I'm going to take the over because it is Thanksgiving Day. It is a primetime game. It is a divisional game. Yeah. It'll be a fun one on Thanksgiving.
A lot of eating.
Yes.
Hopefully the Giants will eat.
Eating in the end zone right there. All right, that's a wrap for us on Over Under. Let's send it back to the field house with Bob and Carl.
Carl, we saw last week, any team, even the 31st ranked run defense, if you put all your resources to stop in the run, they're going to stop it. Now Saquon's got a bigger challenge against a better Dallas defense. Do you see a big bounce back from Saquon?
Well, it's not just Saquon. It's the guys up front that are blocking for them. And it's also a coaching staff that can employ schemes that will get him going because with a mobile quarterback, it takes a few people out of the box. You also have multiple linemen. They played 8 linemen at one point 2 weeks ago. So they have options available to get the run game going, and I think you need it just so that you can play the game at a pace that favors you and not the Cowboys.
When we come back on the program, Carl goes to the coach's tape with strategy here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. It's the Giants in Dallas against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Time for strategy with Carl Banks. And Carl, Cowboys beat down the Vikings on the road this past Sunday, and they have 2 extremely talented running backs in Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, both running backs are very good. One guy is just explosive in space and between the tackles because the one thing they say about Pollard going into this year, well, he's more of an outside perimeter runner, but you can see here he's got really good vision, hits the hole. Now you can just see it's the vision. He gets behind his blocks, and he's explosive through the hole. Now let's just take a look. What the Giants will have to do up front.
Because it's not a gaping hole that he goes through here.
No, it is not. But let's just take a look here. This guy has got to make sure he keeps a little bit of distance between he and the line of scrimmage so he can move this way, Bob, because once he gets caught up in the mix, you'll see here he's stuck behind a guy. Pollard goes here when he goes there. So that's good vision by Pollard, but your defense, and you can't get guys sealed off here, your defense has to be really conscious of their gap responsibilities. And here again, here's a guy who's in a position right here on the edge, and he just gets just enough, and Pollard's through the hole. So you've got to be able to hold your block and be able to shed at the last second, but you got to set a wall.
And that's one of the things that the Giants had a problem with against the Lions last week.
Yeah, set the wall, and then your inside guys have got to be very conscious of their spacing so they don't get caught up in the wash. Now, here's another, by design, we talk about Tony Pollard in space. Here's a classic example of it, Bob, where he just goes out in space. Now, this is a design to get these guys run off, and then Pollard comes through, and what we call that a second man through the zone. So we'll take a look. They're playing zone defense. Linebacker here is the guy who's in coverage. or his responsibility in zone. Now he goes out, now freeze. All of these guys are run off. This is kind of a zone defense, right? And when you're the middle linebacker, we call this the second man through the zone because the first men are already through, and then Pollard just catches the ball, and you can see, by design, this guy comes in to bring this guy with him. Pollard catches and goes down the sideline. Your linebacker has to be closing and running with him. There's a natural pick, and he's off and running.
Yeah, that's a heck of a play design, too.
It is. I mean, they get him out in space, and then as the ball comes out, the receivers come in to set the pick. Now, here's a traditional man-to-man defense on Pollard. He's got good foot speed, and it's a mismatch whenever he gets a linebacker in space. And the linebacker's trying to give himself a little bit of an edge here. He runs out, and I mean, look, I don't know if you could have had the beginning of a coverage on Pollard any better. He's giving him cushion. Here's Pollard. Here's the linebacker. You're giving him cushion, but Pollard sells it with a quick inside move. Then he just turns up the field, and he's gone.
Pollard in this game against Minnesota became only the second player in Cowboys history to have over 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns in a game. The last guy to do it, Dan Reeves in 1967, the only other Cowboy to do it. Carl, Cowboys can get after the quarterback. The Giants saw that when they played them earlier this season, and it was relentless on Kirk Cousins on Sunday.
It is, and it's because, I call this guy Micah Problems, number 11, but he causes problems for everyone. But they've got guys here, they've got guys here, they've got guys here, and they can blitz. So if you're going against this team, you've got to be prepared for one-on-one just power rushes. And let's just take a look here at the bottom of the screen here. This is just a straight bull rush on the tackle. Just pushes him right into the quarterback. And you see the same thing from Micah Parsons. So they're basically squeezing the pocket. He just comes in and just pushes guy. Nothing fancy about it, just a power rush, a bull rush. Right now, let's just take another look at their next set of pass rush. Here's Parsons here on this end of the screen. He drops out. Nice little twist.
Yeah, and DeMarcus Lawrence, he beats 2 guys on one play quickly.
Yeah, here's an overset, so he beats him. Now the back has got to come up and block him. Back barely gets a hand on him.
Yeah, I would say that was not Dalvin Cook's greatest effort right there.
Or the left tackle's greatest effort either.
Yeah. So
we've seen 2 ways that they do it. Now let's take a look at a third. They will bring a rare pressure, but they're so good up front, they give you so much to worry about. And there's just a guy unblocked. I don't even know if it's a blitz or not. It's just the C's opened up. He's showing man coverage here on the tight end. Ball is snapped. Quarterback doesn't see it. Play fake, he comes out of play fake, he's sacked.
All right, that's Strategy with Carl Banks. It's brought to you by PSE&G, providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. When we come back on the program, Above the Numbers and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. We're back here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. Short week for the Giants after the game on Sunday against the Lions. The Giants back in action on Thanksgiving in Dallas against the Cowboys. Time for Above the Numbers. Here's Paul Dottino and Amani Toomer.
Okay, so let's go above the numbers for the Giants' Thanksgiving game in Dallas against the Cowboys. Amani, who do you have first?
I have Jihad Ward. He's brought in by Wink Martindale, played with him down in Baltimore. Now he's come in here as a run stopper. And where do we need him this week? We got to stop the run. Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott looking much better this weekend. This is an opportunity for him, a great locker room guy. This team struggled to stop the run last week. We need a guy like Jihad to come in and shore up our run defense.
You know, Amani, it's very interesting. When we talk about Ward, we're talking about a guy who has 30 tackles so far this season, 2 under his career season high. Now, Dallas runs the ball 30 times a game. okay, they are going to pound it. And they love to run it behind left tackle. 50 times this year they've done so, third most in the NFL. So if they're not going up the middle with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, they're going behind left tackle. And by the way, Ward tied a season high with 6 tackles against the Cowboys in week number 3.
All right.
I'm going to go with Darnay Holmes. Now, the Giants are hurting at corner, so whether or not he's on the boundary or he's in the slot, he is going to have to play big. We look at what he's done this year, only allowing a 57% completion rate, which is the best in his career. He's also only had 1 missed tackle, so he's sound against the run. Now, one thing I do want to mention, though, doesn't have a pick this year, Amani. He's had 1 interception in each of his first 2 NFL seasons. Maybe this is a good week for Darnay Holmes to pluck one out of the air.
Nice Thanksgiving treat, absolutely. He also had a couple great tackles on 3rd down this weekend. Very impressed with his tackling.
Dak Prescott, by the way, has thrown 4 interceptions during his 6 games this season. All right, who do we have to keep below the numbers? I think this one's pretty easy. Linebacker Micah Parsons, 2nd in the National Football League with 10 sacks so far this year, and he's top 5 in the NFL in quarterback hits, forced fumbles, and tackles for a loss. He is very dangerous and will line up anywhere.
That's the thing about it. He'll line up anywhere. So our offense has to be really aware of where he is, set the protections to him. And one of the things we have to do is not run away from him, but run at him. That's the most success you have against the Cowboys when you look at number 11, find his spot, and run right at him.
Now, so far the Giants have done well against him. Did you know in his 3 career games against the Giants, he's got the goose egg? No sacks. Oh. And in 2 of his last 2 meetings against the Giants, only 1 tackle in each of those games. They have kept him quiet. They need to do so again on Thanksgiving. Well, that'll do it for Above the Numbers this week. Now let's go back to Bob.
Carl, it's pretty interesting. You know, Micah Parsons has been unbelievable since coming into the NFL. Against the Giants, though, they've done a pretty good job against him in his first 3 games against him. I would think the Giants need to keep him off the stat sheet in a heavy way.
Well, yeah, you don't want him to wreck the game. Andrew Thomas has done a good job, and they've done whatever they could to limit his impact on the game. But I call him Micah Problems for a reason, because he moves all over the football field. He's not going to be one stationary target. So attention to where he is, but they've got 3 other guys who can really get after the passer too.
The Giants played on Thanksgiving 12 times before World War II. In the Super Bowl era, in 1982, they played their first game, and it was in Detroit against the Lions. When we come back, we'll tell you about that special Thanksgiving in the Motor City here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop.
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity for us. It's a divisional game against a rival and on Thanksgiving. So huge game, huge opportunity for us.
Barkley, nice cut, there he goes. Saquon to the end zone, touchdown Giants.
Well, they do a lot up front. They're the #1 team in the NFL in terms of like games and movement and stuff like that. They move Micah around a lot, and they just got good players.
I mean, all those guys are really good at it, so you got to, just be firm and, make sure communication's good and, have everybody on the same page and, try to get the ball out pretty quick. So
Nick Gates is in. Handoff Barkley, lowers his shoulder left, and he's in for the touchdown.
I've never played on Thanksgiving.
Never? Not even in high school?
Not even in high school. Watched a lot of Thanksgiving games, obviously, but first time playing, I'm excited.
Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop & Shop. When the Giants play the Cowboys on Thanksgiving in Dallas, it'll be the 5th time in the Super Bowl era that the Giants have played on Thanksgiving. The first time they did it was 1982 in the Pontiac Silverdome, the Giants and Lions, where Lawrence Taylor put the Giants in the win column. In 1982, Lawrence Taylor would have to fight through a nagging leg injury as the Giants hobbled into the Pontiac Silverdome on Thanksgiving Day, looking for their first win of the season against the Detroit Lions. With Taylor on the sidelines to start the game, the Lions would take advantage, picking apart New York's shorthanded defense and jumping out to an early first-half lead behind strong running from Billy Sims.
Well, the second quarter, Bill looks over at me and says, listen, get ready to go in there. Boom, I'm out there.
LT's impact would be felt immediately as number 56 quickly altered the tempo of the game, wreaking havoc on Detroit's quarterback and shutting down Billy Sims' rushing attack.
I did a lot of good things in that game. Had some sacks, had some good hits, some caused fumbles. Personally, it was a good game for us.
Despite Taylor's dominating performance, the Giants were still facing defeat late in the game, with Detroit threatening to score, until LT put the team on his shoulders with this signature play.
That was one of those plays. I said to myself, I know damn well he's not going to throw this pass over here to this fullback. There's no way. And I'm looking at the quarterback. I said, if this guy throws this football, it's over with. You know, so I'm going straight to the house.
He ends over pass. He's looking for King, intercepted. He's going to go down the right side. Lawrence down to the 20, 30, down to the 40. He might go all the way. He's going to go in. Hot dog. You're rooting, Dick. Oh, yes, but listen, what an effort.
And we went on to the house. I enjoyed being in that game.
Carl, obviously you were a student at Michigan State 2 years before you were even drafted by the Giants. You grew up in Michigan.
Yeah.
You always have the Thanksgiving Day game on. Remember the play? Do you remember it?
I remember it very, very well. It was probably my first real introduction to Giants defense and this guy named Lawrence Taylor. Being in the Midwest, you know, we saw Chicago, we saw Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit. So when Lawrence Taylor came to town, everybody tuned in because we all heard about it. And boy, was that some play.
So you're in college. I mean, are you thinking to yourself, man, it would be awesome to play with this guy someday?
Had no idea. I had no idea.
We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Giants-Cowboys rivalry of games played in the Lone Star State here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Stop and Shop. The Giants will be in Dallas on Thanksgiving to take on the Cowboys. So we thought, let's take a look at the Giants-Cowboys rivalry of games played in Texas.
The Giants and Cowboys have been battling each other for over 60 years, and this bitter NFC East slugfest has become one of the most classic rivalries in all of sports.
And a fight breaks out between Brandon Jacobs and Roy Williams. I'll tell you what, neither of these teams like each other too much.
The two franchises will forever be linked by the legendary Tom Landry, who as defensive coordinator helped the Giants win the 1956 NFL championship before he was stolen away by the Cowboys and hired as their first ever head coach in 1960. Landry would go on to build a dynasty in Dallas, taking them to 5 Super Bowls.
We're champions, #1, Dallas Cowboys.
There have been so many memorable meetings between these two teams in the Lone Star State throughout the years. In 1971, the Cowboys defeated the Giants in their first Monday Night Football showdown and the last NFL game ever played at the Cotton Bowl.
Parsons looking deep for Bob Hayes, and that's why they pass.
15 years later, in 1986, Big Blue would lose their opening game of the season in Dallas, but en route to capturing their first ever Super Bowl trophy. The Giants would avenge their loss by beating the Cowboys at Giants Stadium in their second meeting of the year.
Carl Banks is coming feet right in his face. White was hammered. You have to have the doctor check you after a play like that.
In 1990, the Giants set out on a mission to return to Super Bowl glory, and they would storm out of the gates, winning their first 10 games, including a Week 2 shellacking in Dallas.
Intercepted by Taylor. He'll score. Oh, Lawrence, the magician.
The Cowboys would get some redemption 2 years later when Emmitt Smith erupted for 2 touchdowns in a Thanksgiving Day blowout.
This is Emmitt Smith. Emmitt off to the races. 68 yards for Emmitt Smith. Happy Thanksgiving from Dallas, where the Cowboys beat the Giants 30-3.
The rivalry would reach its boiling point in the 1994 season when the two teams met on Monday Night Football, and the battle would hit a fever pitch on a highly contested Hail Mary at the end of the first half.
That's interference. And there's a fight on the field here before we go to a break, as all of a sudden this breaks out.
Look out, look at this. That's Michael Irvin the Cowboy receiver, and that is where the fight starts.
Well, this isn't settled yet.
The rivalry would be renewed in the Giants' 2007 Super Bowl season, when Dallas swept their regular season meeting with Big Blue.
Makes the catch, runs out of a tackle, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Terrell Owens. And Dallas has the victory. And back to the drawing board for the Giants.
But in the hours leading up to the divisional playoff game, the third meeting between the two teams that year, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones would provide Coach Coughlin and the Giants with some extra motivation.
Jerry puts 2 tickets to the NFC Championship game on each player's stool in their locker room the night before the game. If Dallas wins, the NFC Championship game is in Dallas.
Now, did I make a big deal about it? No. But did I know that it happened, and did I make sure the players knew that that happened? Sure.
Heavyweight fight! Heavyweight fight, let's go!
That definitely fired us up. That was like, now they're disrespecting us. They beat us twice, and now they're disrespecting us. Nah, we're gonna take it to them.
Manning takes the snap, back to throw, swings one left, wide open Toomer at the Cowboy 40, sheds a tackle down the left sideline, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Amani Toomer, 52 yards. For the franchise's all-time leading receiver, when you need a big play, he's the guy that does it.
We just turned up the heat and went, played physical. We went in there to walk back to the huddle like mushing people side the head.
2nd and goal to 1. Jacobs now in at tailback. Manning, handoff Jacobs. He runs right, flouts to the goal line, touchdown Giants. And they regain the lead.
Jacobs fires the football into the play clock.
That's how I feel about the Dallas Cowboys. I've always disliked them, so I wanted to do something to let the world know who was watching that game that he really hates Dallas.
As the Giants now jump out in front.
We had them intimidated in their own house, 13-3, the big-time Dallas Cowboys, and we had them right where we wanted them.
Here we go, 4th and 11 at the Giants 23, 16 seconds to go. Romo takes the snap, back to throw, has time to the end zone, intercepted by the Giants. Intercepted by the Giants in the end zone. R.W. McQuarters. Way to go, R.W.
To win that game on an R.W. McQuarters interception in the end zone at the end of it, I've never seen 80,000 people silent. And it was by far the greatest feeling of my life. I'm happy about whipping the Cowboys in Dallas. Finish them. Get out of here, Cowboy fans. Go home.
That's a great win. That's a great win. Nobody gave us a chance.
Jerry just sent the tickets over, so we're all set.
Let's have a team. 1, 2, 3.
2 years later in 2009, Jerry Jones would unveil his massive prototype of modern-day arenas, and the Giants traveled to Dallas for the first ever game at Cowboy Stadium. Once again, Big Blue would look to play the role of spoiler.
Lobs one right to the sideline, sliding catch and drop. Manningham, then he caught it again, touchdown. And the New York Giants have defeated the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys lost the final game in Texas Stadium, and they lose the first game in Cowboy Stadium.
2 years later, the Giants found themselves in familiar territory, on the road in Dallas, needing a comeback win to keep their season alive.
And now Dan Bailey will try to tie this up with a 47-yarder from the left hash with 6 seconds to go.
What a game.
Snap is good again. Kick on its way, and it's blocked! Blocked by the Giants, and the Giants will win it!
Individual rose up.
Yep, Jason Pierre-Paul, JPP. And the New York Giants have saved their season as they come to Dallas and defeated the Cowboys.
What a guy! What a guy!
One thing is for certain, there's no love lost between these two historic franchises. So get ready for this latest Thanksgiving Day installment of the Giants-Cowboys rivalry. Carl, always extra juice playing on Dallas. I remember in 1986, you guys lost the season opener. You went on to beat the Cowboys at Giants Stadium and go on to win the Super Bowl. But it's always a little bit more of a show when you play in Dallas, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the pomp and circumstance. It's the pregame. It's, they set the scene for it to be the most prominent primetime game of the day. I mean, it's in the arena, in person, and on TV, it is a sight to behold, and it is, it's worthy to be that premier game.
I know in the middle part of the 80s when you guys won your first Super Bowl, Washington was the better team at that point, but do you remember the first time you stepped on field against the Cowboys and you looked across and you saw Tom Landry with that hat on?
Yeah, and the big hole in the roof of the stadium and the sun beating down only on your side of the field. But yeah, he was legendary, the late great Tom Landry, and just everything that they did, from the way their offensive linemen got set at the line of scrimmage. It was so much cool stuff going on.
And then 2011, we're behind the microphone now in this game, and the Giants score 15 points late in the game. JPP blocks a potential game-tying field goal. It feels like the games in Dallas have a lot of drama to them.
They do, and it's only fitting, though, because they're not your most hated rival, but they're the rival you hate most. And because they're the Dallas Cowboys, and you want to kind of knock a little luster off of that star.
Now, the Giants have played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving once before. This came in 1992 down in the old Texas Stadium. Cowboys beat the Giants 30-3. Dave Brown and Kent Graham were the quarterbacks because Sims and Hostetler were hurt. That game was close at half. It was only 9-3, and then Emmitt Smith caught a touchdown pass and had a 68-yard run. But you did have a sack in that game of Troy Aikman in 1992.
I did.
What was it like playing on Thanksgiving? I mean, I know you didn't get the result you wanted, but it was one of those deals where it's got to be cool to do it.
Again, you're playing the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. It's a show. I mean, you want to play your best game, and it is the game to watch when it's a Dallas Cowboys Thanksgiving game.
Well, we're all fired up for the Giants and Cowboys, and the Thanksgiving game this week is presented by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New York Giants. Hey, listen, on Thanksgiving, after you've had your dinner and you've watched the Giants game, make sure you switch right over to MSG for Giants Postgame Live presented by NFL All Day. So for Carl Banks, Coach Daboll, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this edition of the Coach Daboll Show presented by Stop and Shop.